Shalom, shalom, shalom. This is Rabbi Moshe of Tero, Ways of Israel. We are going to continue our series that you can find it on Facebook. And now I'm testing something here, doing it live via TikTok. See how that will work. So those of you who have TikTok, you can go to Moshe.770, or you can do it also via the website of Facebook at the Ways of Israel, and we're doing this live. So join your friends, and we're going to be talking today regarding Sefer Ikkarim. Now, Rabbi Albo, who was a 15th century rabbi, he begins giving us the fundamentals, as it were, of Judaism in a very unique way. And like I said, you can join us live as well on Facebook, on Ways of Israel, on my webpage here, or you could do it via TikTok at Moshe.770. And so we're looking at the works of Rabbi Joseph Albo. Of course, we're doing this in the memory of a good friend of mine who happened to be a descendant of the Albo family in Spain, and he passed away about a year ago. And for some reason, people are just dying like crazy. I don't know if you've experienced this, but we definitely have experienced a lot of Jews, a lot of non-Jews also dying. So I want to focus on this afternoon, the chapter 27 on the second book of Sefer Ikkarim, where he gets into the concept of true or emet. And in chapter 27, Rabbi Alba begins, true is a term that's used to indicate that which is expressed in an agreement with that which is in the mind and that which exists in reality outside of the mind. But if the expression is in disagreement with the thing that it exists in reality outside of the mind, though it agrees with the thing that is as it is in the mind, we call it untrue. In other words, sheker, not truth. Reuben saw Levi commit a homicide, thinking that Levi was Simeon. He testified that Simeon committed homicide. His testimony is untrue. Though there is no difference between his experience and his thought and the two being in agreement, on the other hand, if he were to testify that Levi committed homicide, thinking that Simeon was the guilty party, he would not be saying an untruth, since the fact is as he stated. Nevertheless, he would be guilty of lying, since the expression and his thoughts are not in agreement, and his words belie the thought. In short, a lie, kazab in Hebrew, is an expression used in relation to a speaker. A lie exists when the expression and thoughts are not in agreement. Untruth is an expression used in relationship to things itself. An untruth exists when the expression is in disagreement with the thing as it is in reality of the outside mind. If the expression is in disagreement, alike with the thought and with the thing as in reality outside of the mind, it can't be called a lie and untruth. And when there are three that agree, we call it true. It is clear, therefore, that the word existence, in Hebrew it's nimsa, cannot truly be predicated of anything existing except God. For existing things other than God cannot have the term existence truly applicable to them at other times, but only at the times when they exist, not after and not before, but God, being the existence all the time in the same way, has a true existence. And the meaning of the word existence in the mind, as applied to him, is in agreement with the reality outside of the mind and with the expression. Therefore, the word existent applies to him more truly than any other existing thing. Also, the word existence or existent applies only to those whose existence is not dependent upon any other, but upon his own essence. For since his existence depends upon his own essence only, says Rabbi Albo, he has no potentiality in him. If we say, for example, that the heavens are in continuous motion, the statement is true, as long as the mover is in the existent who causes them to move. But when the mover ceases to exist, the statement is no longer true. In the same way, if we say that the separate intelligence are existent, the statement is true as long as the author of their existence, who maintains them in being, is there. Per se, in their existence is not absolute. Since they are dependent upon another, and their existence is determined for them by their cause, hence there is none among existing things to which the word existence applies truly except to God, whose existence depend upon his own essence and not upon another. Hence, his existence is true. This is what the rabbis meant when they said, "The seal of the Holy One, blessed be He, is true." Literal word emet. The meaning is that there is none other existing things to whom the term existence apply at all times and from all aspects, whether we view it with reference to itself or with reference to another, except God. And this is the conception that they conveyed to Moses at the burning bush in answer to his questions. And they shall say to me, "What is his name? What shall I say to them?" Moses thought that the being who appeared to him might perhaps be one of the separate intelligence whose existence depend upon another. He was therefore afraid that he might not obtain his request, for since the existence of the power of this being are dependent upon another, if the other chose to nullify the will of the former, it would no doubt become null and void, and the object of his desire would not be realized. Therefore God answered that his name is I am that I am. The existent whose existence depend upon his own essence and not upon another. Now Moses might therefore feel assured that he can realize whatever he desires. The expression that I am is in the first person, as if to say I am because I am, and not because another than I is. My existence and the other existence could say of himself, I am because I am, and they would have to say, I am that because he is. The expression he is referring to the first person, but to a third person who is the cause of the first, and he would say then, I am that because he is. I am in the existence because another than I is in existence, namely the first cause upon whose existence of another cause, and therefore to him alone of all existing things is applicable to the name I am that I am. I am in existence because I am in existence, and not because of another who is in existence. And therefore his existence is true because he has no need of another. And the word true applies to him more than any other existing things. And we can say therefore that among the attributes there is none which is applicable to him in all respects except the attribute true, emet, and it is because nothing to the essence and merely an explanation of the expression necessary existence. Just as in the proposition, man is rational animal. Animal and rational are explanatory of a man and nothing and not something other than man. And so true is the explanation of necessary existence and nothing else. The expression necessary existence means nothing else except a being whose existence is absolute true, in whom there is neither potentiality nor dependence upon another. For this reason, this attribute is preferable to all other attributes and names. Here, the prophet too characterizes God as true in the manner of different from his characterization of him by means of the other names and attributes. He says, but the Lord God is the true God. He is the living God, the everlasting King, in the expression that indicates he is difference between describing God as true and describing him as the living King and by any other attribute. It's explained in the fourth book of the metaphysics that whenever we say the same, who there may be imagine a kind of plurality or otherness as an expression, that this is Ahasuerus who reigned from India even to Ethiopia. There are the same that the Datan and Abiram, the elect of the congregation, who strove. These are the same as Aaron and Moses, and these are the same that spoke to Pharaoh, king of Egypt. In all the cases, one might suppose, but for the description, that the persons named are other than those who are described later. The same is true of the expression, He is the Lord our God. His judgments are true in the earth, in all the earth. For one might possibly suppose that God of Israel has a specific kingdom like the other celestial rulers, who are assigned to rule the various nations. For this reason, the Bible explains that it is not so, but that judgments of the Lord, who is our God, extends over all of the earth. His rule is universal over the whole earth. So in the case where the word same, quote unquote, is used, it is for the purpose of making it clear that the reference is not to another, as one might suppose in the word true. However, no other reference is possible before the prophets is careful in his mode of expression. When he describes that God as true, he does not use the word same, but says simply, but the Lord God is truth, is emet. But when he describes to him the attributes of life and royalty, he uses the expression, the same is the living God and the everlasting King. The meaning is that, let me catch my breath here. So the meaning is that while one might suppose a distinction between God and the attributes of life and royalty, though, as we said before, this supposition is not true. No such thing is possible in connection with the word truth, emet. Hence, he does not say, but the Lord God, the same is truth. And by reason of the otherness, which might be supposed in connection with the other attributes, we said above that all of the attributes must be understood in a negative sense, so as not to be necessitate any multiplicity in the essence of God, or God's essence. Now keep in mind, Rabbi Albo is getting involved in this idea of multiplicity, plurality, and the unity of the one God in order to make a major distinction between what he calls as the fundamental of Judaism and what the co-religionist, primarily Christianity, was saying, of that of a Trinity and the triune God and so forth. So he makes it very clear, the concept of a one God that we all serve, and this becomes the essence of this fundamental belief of Judaism. And because the understanding of this attribute is more profound matter than the understanding of any other, Daniel said in his prayer, Yet have we not entreated the favor of the Lord our God, that we might turn from our iniquities and have discernment in thy truth, thy emet? Discernment in God's truth is nothing else than the understanding of his necessary existence, inasmuch as the word truth points more clearly to a necessary existence than any other attribute. One of the ancient lawgivers said that the truth is God. Emet has bases on it. It has even the Hebrew letter of Aleph, Mem, and Tav. They all have 2 feet to stand firmly on the ground and on basis that this is God. God is truth. There is no untruth in God. So moreover, it's fitting that the word truth should be specially applicable to God as a distinct from other beings, because it contains the first and last letter of the alphabet, the Aleph and the Tav, and the Mem too, which is in the middle, indicating that God is the first, the last, and the middle, continuing bearing all things by his power. The reason that we did not mention truth as a derivative dogma, as you can see in my other videos that is posted on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Ways of Israel. Please join it if you want to follow our classes and teaching. By this, He continually is bearing all things by his power. The reason that we did not mention truth as a derivative, says Rabbi Albo, as a dogma coming from the principle of the existence of God, as we have mentioned in unity, is because, as we have shown, truth is nothing more than an explanation and expression necessary of existence. To count it as a dogma would therefore be a tautology. For to say God is true is the same thing as saying that God is a true existence, and there is nothing else than an explanation of the term of existence. And here he concludes chapter 27 of his second book of Sefer Ikkarim, which means the book of fundamentals. So join us every day. We try to cover this at least once a day, every chapter, because there's 4 chapters, and there's 4 books in Sefer Ikkarim, and it's an incredible book for those of you who want to understand during the medieval period the mindset of Judaism, that it was very basically fundamental. Now he makes a lot of distinctions. Those of you who are following me about demonology, whether demons exist, we have already shown in the 4 series that we had before, that's also posted on Facebook, that in fact demons do exist, and this according to Judaism. There are those like Rambam who basically discounts it as more of a mythical and state of mind, as it were, anything but that. But our sources are full of examples of its existence. So join me in our next series, or rather next chapter, chapter 28, where Rabbi Alba brings us to the idea that the name of God expressed in the letters of the Shem HaMeforash, which is the sacred name, which we will take a look at, the Yod He Vav He, also called Shem HaMeforash, which means separate names. And we're going to look at this, that the root of the parash is often used by rabbis to denote that that is separate and different from another. And so they speak of flesh that is separated, ha-poresh, from a living animal. He who separates himself from ha-poresh, from his foreskin, for example, men who are different from others and superior in virtue and saintliness, are called perushim. Interesting enough. So we're going to look at this thing where many of you have asked the question about what is a perushim? What is a Pharisee? Well, we're going to look at this from Rabbi Albo's perspective of the idea that they separated themselves to be dedicated to God's work, and they were called perushim. But interesting enough, the word perushim, or Pharisees, took on a very negative attribute during the Christian period, where you will find and see that they were considered hypocrites, and according to the Talmud Sota, there were 7 kinds of perushim. So the question is, what kind of perushim are you referring to? Because there were 7 different types of perushim, at least, that's mentioned in Tractate Sota, and each one had lost their share in the world to come because of the way they basically conducted their life. As a matter of fact, they were one that was called the bloody perushim, because in order not to see women, he would close their eyes and would hit some type of stub or wall and come out bloody, because he didn't want to see any women that can create these type of impure thoughts. So that is a whole entire subject of what we're talking about, but we will eventually get there with God's help and with your help. I hope this series, or this chapter 27, was of great help to you. So you can join us on our Facebook page. Facebook page is Ways of Israel. You can look at us up and you'll see our page there. You're welcome to join our group page and partake with a lot of our classes that we have, both on YouTube as well as on Facebook, and hopefully we can do this also on TikTok, so that way you can be part of the learning experience, ask the questions, grow in your faith in God, which is so necessary, so important in this period of time where it's being hit left and right. The whole entire structure of faith in God it's a battle, no doubt about it, and it's being waged by those basically who are unbelievers, who don't believe in God, who don't believe in morality and who's trying to substitute religion with another ism, the ism of globalism and the ism of anti-Godism. And we're seeing that so take place, my friends. Also, many of you have asked me, Rabbi, I want to become a Jew. How do I do that? Send me a letter, send me an email, and we'll help you go through the process of becoming part of the Jewish people, at least according to halacha. And be more than happy to help you. There's other rabbis who are involved in the same type of task. And you're welcome to join and be part of the Jewish people. Though I won't negate the fact that you're going to have a lot of opposition on so many different levels, because the Jewish people, as you see even in Israel, they're facing reduction of different bet dins that's recognized by Israel. But please let me know if you want to be recognized by the state of Israel, or just do it because it's in your heart to do it, and you're doing it because you have faith in God, you want to be part of the people of God, and because you want to do it according to Jewish law and process, not because you want to get something out of Israel, or you want to get yourself out of this. No, no, no. There are different people who have different motives, and a lot of people who basically embrace Judaism, a lot of them that I've encountered, with a correct and sincere desire. So connect with us. Send me an email, rabbiotero@yahoo.com, or join us right live, right here on Facebook Live. And we try to do this every morning. We try to do this every day. That way you're connected. You're connected to Torah. There's so many Torah rabbis online. It's incredible the amount of Torah teaching you can find right here, right now, like never before. I remember many years ago, we didn't have that many rabbis on these different virtual systems. They were all in the shul, in the shtetl. You wanted to learn Torah, you had to go to the shtetl. You had to go to the synagogue. And you're lucky they'll let you inside the synagogue. Many times they would keep you out, say, oh, you're not Jewish, you're not allowed to come in. I mean, but now it has been broken. It's been opened up to the entire general public, which so many people are learning, which to me, it's an incredible thing. That's all because of courageous people who basically say, I want to embrace the God of Israel. It's not enough, the 7 universal laws. You know, the 7 universal laws, it's below the basics. I say this to people, but they don't believe me until they get involved in the 7 universal laws. And I used to teach the 7 universal laws until my good friend Rabbi Katz here in Hollywood, he says, you know what? These people want to congregate. These people want to have a community. They're not going to find it with B'nai Noach. They have to become part of the people of Israel. So the majority of the groups of B'nai Noach that I know of, that I have been involved in, that I've taught, and believe me, I've taught B'nai Noach, I've taught the 7 universal laws. It's not enough for them, for the majority. For those that it's enough, okay, leave them be. It's not enough. Because why? Because they realize that Torah Judaism, the Judaism of Torah is so vast, so profound, so deep, so incredible. They want more, and they thirst for more. Now, of course, the issue becomes, which way should I go? Should I go through a bet din that's going to be recognized by Israel, and today and tomorrow and following day have to be reconverted and reconverted? Because that's exactly what's happening in Israel. The Rabbanut, I don't want to speak bad about the Rabbanut, but it has a lot to be desired. And I've said this many, many times. Because of the politics that they're involved in, they have denied and negated many good converts whose conversions are done properly, halachically, and then they blame the rabbis that help them do the conversions halachically. And I said, well, where were you? Pirkei Avot says, where there is no man, be a man. And so many rabbis have arisen to that call to be men of Torah, to be men to do the right things. There are very few, but there are some. Because if you go through a bet din that's recognized, it's going to cost you a pretty penny. It's not going to be cheap. And it's about, unfortunately, and again, I always tell the people that want to go through halakhic conversion, if you want to go through a conversion that's done and recognized by Israel, I'll put you through it. But be ready to pay a lot of money. You'll end up paying between $5,000 to $20,000. I personally don't think it's necessary to spend that much money, but rather spend more of your time and money in learning Sepharim, and learning halacha, and learning how to be a Jew the proper way. Connect with a community. And that way, when you go through the process of conversion, you are already prepared to live the Jewish life. Because the bottom line, the whole idea of the conversion process is so that you begin to live as a Jew or Jewish. That's the reason. That's how you become another pretending Jew. We have enough secular Jews, born Jews, that we already have enough trouble with them. They don't keep kosher, they don't keep Shabbat, they don't go to the minyan, they don't do this, they don't do that. And then we have to deal with the liberal leftist progressive mentality that they have embraced, and they justify saying, well, I'm Jewish. Are you really? Yeah, you were born Jewish, but it sounds like you're a mamzer, because the way you're living is not the proper way. You need to do shuvah. You need to change your ways. Maybe you need to go through a real conversion to understand what people who've gone through the process go through. Literally, I'm saying this to people who are Jewish, who don't live the Jewish life. Perhaps you need to go through a reconversion, because the way you're living is like a non-Jew. It's like one of those seven Noachide laws. And you know what? Maybe you ought to learn those 7 Noachide laws to at least raise your level of liberalism, to be a little bit more conservative in your approach to God and godliness and your society at large. I know you got offended. See, some of you are just cutting off. But you know, you need to hear this. Because there's no rabbi that's rabbi of a shul that will tell you direct and tell you point blank how it is. Because they don't want to offend you. They don't want to offend their monetary bases. They don't want to offend that. They become like these preachers that basically have to put wet towels over you so you feel good. You have that sensation of the feeling good as a Jew, the cardiac Jew. I feel good. And you know what? God says, enough. I'm bringing some consequential actions as a result. And then you say, well, why is this happening to the Jewish people? Why is anti-Semitism rising in levels that we have never seen in our lives, except to the time of the Holocaust, just prior? Because of the liberal, leftist, progressives that were in existence also in Germany. It was better to be a German Jew outwardly and a Jew hidden in home. We went through this before. It's nothing new. It's nothing new. But what's new now is that it has become, as it were, a cultural underpinning of many Jewish lives. Well, I made a lot of money. You know, I see these public figures as Jewish representation, and they're really not really good Jews necessarily for the public. They don't talk about God except if it affects their own pocketbook. They don't talk about connecting back with God and doing godly things. 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva was slaughtered by a plague because they couldn't get along with each other, because of the Lashon Hara, because the attacks one to another. And then you wonder, why are we on a semi mourning period during this period of the Omer, when it's supposed to be a time of rejoicing and happiness, a time where music was blasted out. Now we can't hear music because we have sinned, because we've done the wrong things to our fellow Jews, to our fellow human beings. And then you wonder why, what's going on in this world. And instead we begin to realize and take accountability and realize, yes, truth is God. God is truth. And when we listen to God, we begin to change our nature to the imitation of God. And we're able to adapt and accept and become more like God, godliness. Become more truthful with ourselves and with others. So you know what? let's be truthful. Let's be truthful with our dealings with one another. Let's be truthful with our actions. You see, here is where it counts. When you're able to face the mirror of truth, of emet, and see all of the things you need to change, and start working at it. Say, I need to change this in my life. I need to change that in my life. I need to realize that I am not perfect, but I have a lot of work to do inside of me and outside of me to do good without having to see who I'm doing good to. We're so worried about, look at this problem. It becomes external and not internal. We're dealing with an issue worldwide of corruption, deceit, and all types of things that is contrary to the very attributes of God and who God is. And so we need to get people back to God, and hopefully we'll be able to be transformed as they get closer to God and godliness. If you want any information how you can become a Jew, reach out to me. My number is posted almost everywhere on Facebook at 786-306-8211. Also, you can reach me at rabbiotero@yahoo.com and join the Ways of Israel. I'm going to encourage you to join our group page, become a member. You can download our membership right there online and be a member. Join us here at the Ways of Israel and be blessed by the God of Israel. Everyone who blesses the God of Israel becomes blessed. Everyone who blesses God's people will become blessed and will be blessed, as promised by our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. May God bless you today, this afternoon, with a lot of blessings, a lot of health, and may God bring refuah. Let me just say this. A lot of people are dying. And you'll see throughout Facebook and TikTok the expression BDE. What is BDE? Baruch Dayan Ha'emet. When a person sees a very negative thing happen to the life of a person, a loved one, they would say Baruch Dayan Ha'emet. And unfortunately this morning I woke up, one of my family members told me, listen, so Jack Panagel passed away, a massive heart attack. You know, the guy who was a true mensch. He owned a Stephanus here in Coral Springs. He sold it, and the new owners are going to be buying another place. And I said, this guy was such a mensch. I used to teach his daughters at Landau Yeshiva in the Chabad of Miami. And a whole bunch of thoughts came back to me saying, this guy was always a mensch in treating the customers. He always had a chavas Israel. His daughters imitated that in the life of their fathers. And so I have to say my deepest condolence to the Panagel family. May Hashem bless you with comfort and strength during this very difficult time. We understand what it is to lose a loved one, a father, a mother. It's very heart-wrenching. A lot of memories come to the forefront and a lot of tears. And may God allow every single person who's gone through this deep mourning of losing a loved one be also comforted by God. And may we see that day in which our loved ones will be resurrected from the dead and be brought up from dead to life. Only God, the true God who promised this, can realize it in the coming or with the coming of Mashiach. May God bless you and be strengthened in your faith. Shalom, shalom, bracha. And that means peace, peace, and blessing. This is Rabbi Moshe Otero, Ways of Israel.